6 o'clock, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. I'll talk slowly so Michael has time to us to go by.
There's you all worked up over here.
All board members are present. First up is we're gonna review the August 12th public meeting minutes. What?
Make a motion to accept the August 12th public meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any edits? All those in favor of the motion, so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll
That's
abstain.
accepted. One abstention.
Yep.
Next meeting is September 9th at Belmont High School. Public communication and correspondence. New business. Yeah, both of these. New business bus schedules. We have a lot of pages in the packet.
And I actually did notice on, I'm gonna have to find the numbers of the buses, but there are a couple of Belmont buses where the total number of riders and the max load, they don't match up, and the total number of riders is a lot higher than the max load. So I didn't know if that was maybe just a typo. It happened on a couple of them.
Yeah, it could be. So this was the first year that they utilized that software, VersaTrans. So they're pulling addresses. So I'm not sure if there's duplicates in the system.
Yeah, so we have some, I think what the capacity was, they're smaller, 19, I think.
Yeah, there's
19
one where it says that the total number of riders is like 73 or something like that, and max capacity is like 73. That was interesting.
So their max capacity must be off. I don't think we have any buses that are full capacity because there's 77 passenger buses, except for our smaller buses that are 44.
Are the smaller buses, are those the smallest buses?
Mm-hmm.
So like I see something say max load 19, that's not the bus.
No.
Okay.
So this one here on page 45 of the packet, I don't know what actual page, it says total riders 65, max load 47. And then the next one after that on page 47 is total riders 46, max load 45. There's just a couple of them that are like that, and I just wanted to make sure that.
I'll ask them just to cross-check the max loads of.
Yeah.
Did it result in any changes using the, whatever the software's called?
Did it indicate that?
So I know I made a change for my own stop, or my kid's stop there, because they have to go by, they go by my house twice. And so on this, they have them picking them up as they go by the first time. So then they're on the bus for an extra 25 minutes. So we'll put in a call and say, hey, can you pick them up on the way back by, because why ride the bus when you don't have to? So I'm assuming that could be, listed elsewhere in the, in that, but, so that may be, other people may be calling on that. But I'm assuming that was a change with the software.
I will say I like the format a little bit better, and I like the total time. I do think the total time's a little bit. I'm interested in when the first rider gets on and when they get off, and I think the total time probably includes when it actually leaves like the garage. So you might have to cut off that beginning section or the ending section. But, so it gives you a better feel. They're definitely some both have very long rides.
I was trying to figure out, is there one specific for this one, bus 11 isn't available?
Yes, I want to address that. Thank you. That was a request at our last meeting, so I contacted First Student. They actually did provide me the routes for the double up, but it was in the old format, and it was really confusing. because it's not something that they've done before. They haven't provided that information when they double up. So I actually requested for a student to put it in this format, and when they do, we'll post those double up. Okay, so it's coming. That should not impact any action this evening. And just so the board is aware, year after year, the board has approved these routes as an action item, but in our policy it says review them. So that doesn't even necessarily need to be an action item, but it's been practiced since I've been here, and well before that, the board approved it, just letting you know. And I'm only saying that because we can post those double up routes. And we've posted these routes as well, just because parents have been asking for them.
Right, so on the fact that we're, policy states that we review, that was gonna be, my question is how quickly can we get this out to parents, because it's next Tuesday.
That was posted last week.
Okay.
Good question.
So the bus that's an issue in Canterbury, is that the one that's on page 59 of the packet, so B11 plus 11? Total riders 37. So what happens if those 37 get moved to a different?
Two different buses.
So this is bus 11 in the morning, so that's not usually the issue. I feel like we have bus 11 in the morning usually. It's gonna be the afternoon version of bus 11, so I don't know if it's quite as many.
Probably.
It's further down, basically.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's on page 87.
Yeah, so I think we should take action on this, although
Wow.
I'm,
That's a big time difference. On bus 11 in the AM is listed at 94, 92 minutes, and in the PM it's only listed at 51.
could be based on ridership too.
Well, the mileage is different too. It's 54 something miles in the, are we talking the same bus? Bus 11, yeah.
Yes, so my understanding, I have a child that rides bus 11 in the morning, but he actually, bus 12 goes by my house in the afternoon. So the ridership is very different.
So the routes are different in the afternoon than the morning. Okay, that makes, okay, that would explain that then.
So I think we should take action on this because it's up for action, but I do think we should revisit whether we should be doing that on an annual basis, especially if you're gonna post it ahead of time. The policy says it's for review. We should definitely review them, but I'm always leery. I always hate taking action on something where I don't know what we can do about it, even if we didn't like it.
Yeah, if you say no, those buses are still going to go on the road. So the reviews where you come up with questions. So I was thinking next year when this comes up, when it's on the horizon, we put it as information. So that I can take board feedback and give it back to the first student, and not necessarily have it as an action item.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know that this also falls on first student to provide this information to us. Is there any chance they can get it to us a little bit earlier next year so that we can review it and have those questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing.
When we put it on the horizon earlier, so you're reminded.
How do they know who's taking the buses? Do they get that from the school?
It comes directly from Alma, our student information system.
And when do you get that from them?
They pull it automatically, actually. So now that we have Versatrans and First View as software, they get automatic downloads from our SIS.
But there's no reason we would be slowing that process down.
Not at all. And it would change closer you get to school, because sometimes you have parents that are calling, ready to start of school saying, my student needs transportation. But other than that, you can pull it earlier.
Other questions? Take action on it.
Make a motion to approve the bus schedules as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congressional grant funding. Let's start with that.
So I wanted to propose to the board, about looking into hiring a grant writer. Like, looking at the application materials, for the congressional grant that we applied to. I think we can do something more in depth the next time this comes around. And, hiring somebody who does this on a regular basis might benefit our entire district. We're not just talking about the congressional funding here. I mean, I was emailing Sean earlier this week even about looking for grants for the baseball field. So finding somebody that would not only research the grants for us, but also apply to the grants for us. I don't know if anybody has any opinions on that, but this wouldn't be, I'm not suggesting we look for somebody that's like a salary benefited position. This would be like a contractor.
I really like that idea, honestly, because truthfully, we have a lot of money that's going to be coming up here soon. I mean, honestly, if there's, I feel like it's more fiscally responsible to spend, you know, I don't actually know what the price would be, but I do know it's a lot less than $12 million for an HVAC system if we could get any sort of funding that way. So I think that is a reasonable thing to look into.
Do you know if the town of Canterbury has any grant needs, or is this something that you could piggyback the two towns?
I don't know if like the town of Canterbury, I don't think they have a grant writer. I would venture to say no.
For sure, but I don't think that is something that Canterbury has.
No, so I did ask this question when we met with them last week, and it sounds like each department kind of does their own requests and application and all of that. But I was hoping, you know, towns have interest, each town.
Does Belmont have one?
No. So town of Belmont doesn't have a grant writer. I have to assume that Canterbury doesn't either. It's too small.
I
Yeah,
don't believe we do.
right. But it's a pretty small municipality to have a dedicated grant writer. I've been in districts where that have had a dedicated grant writer, and I've been in districts that don't. For the town of Belmont, it's falling on the department heads to go after that grant money. In schools where, again, it fell onto individual departments or individual people, it's not easy to write grants when you're not writing them on a regular basis. I've attempted to write a few. When I was principal up in Pittsburgh, I successfully got one when I was in Winnisquam, but I had a lot of help, with it. If you have experience, writing them, and you have employees that can come to you and say, hey, I think this grant would be appropriate, or the grant writer has access to the list of grants and the description of them and where they would most appropriately fit, can reach out to personnel, say, hey, would this fit within your department, or would you like it? There's a lot of value there. The hard part is selling the position, the salary, and the benefits. But in districts where I was a part of that had a grant writer, that grant writer was bringing in 4 to 5 times what their salary and benefits were.
I feel like selling it that first year will be very, very difficult, but the reporting on it should make it easier in theory, to support it in future years if we can report out the revenues far exceed the costs.
And the other piece, which is really important, is the follow through on the grant with whatever the reporting expectations or whatever the tail end expectations are. I'll use Franklin as an example. Franklin would go after every single grant imaginable, and then as soon as they got the money, they went, sweet, and did nothing else on the tail end. And it would burn bridges. It would burn bridges with the people that were supplying the money because the district wasn't following through on the expectations of the grant. So that's another thing that a employed individual can do, is make sure that, in our case, the district stays in good graces with the people providing the grants. So there's value, there's goods and bads, and it'll be a hard sell, that's for sure. But the reporting out, moving forward, either on year 2 or year 3 or year 5, if your grant writer is bringing in, 3 times, 4 times, 6 times, the salary, that's going to maintain its benefit.
So I would support pursuing a professional grant writer as a contracted service, not an employee of the district. So Debbie and I are going to look into what that cost might look like as part of our budget development process. But I would see it more as a contracted service than hiring a new employee. That would be a hard sell. But a contracted service, we put it in the contracted service line. We just have to get an understanding as to what that cost might look like. So we were looking at pursuing that and putting it into proposed operating budget for bringing it forward for consideration.
So what does putting it in the contracted service line do?
So you're not hiring that person as an employee, so there aren't benefits attached to it. There's no salary attached to it. You basically designate a specific amount of money in a contracted service line that service provider works within as a contracted service provider. So I don't know what that looks like for a professional grant writer, but we're going to start researching that.
You might want to know if you have any contacts over at Manchester School District. I know they have a contracted grant writer on retainer, so maybe suggestions from them as well.
Yeah, I was going to reach out definitely to them. Debbie, you mentioned today that the
Grants.gov is a website that you can join, and you can actually reach out to them for grant writers and say that you're looking for a grant writer for a particular grant or just in general. So they have different fees based on the level of difficulty for the grant.
So that can give us an indication as to what the range is. So we're going to look into that.
And as far as reporting out, we can set up a separate fund just for this purpose. So the money that we use in the general fund, we can transfer, let's say it's approved as a contract service, we can transfer that to the fund to show the expense of that and then show all of the money that comes in from the grants that are raised. So we'll be able to report that out separately.
Way ahead of ourselves, but say, that's in the budget for the proposed budget for 26, 27. Even with the contracted service, we're still gonna save in the budget as a new position, right? Like.
It's a new contracted
It's a new
position.
contract.
A new contract.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that we're not talking, I wanna make sure that we're making it clear that is new for folks
Yeah.
that are.
I also think we have to be clear in order to create a budget, we have to be clear what their scope is, because there's a difference between writing, but someone also has to find the grants. So keeping that in mind, because I think it's important for both, I guess is my point.
I agree.
And that's going to drive costs.
It'd be great if Town of Canterbury, Town of Belmont, and Shaker Regional School District all got together with a dedicated individual, because once they have all the demographic information and they know how to present it, and how to organize it within the application, it's so valuable. And the only reason that I say that is because I've been through the process, and it's not easy to figure that out the first couple times. But then you run out of time. If you're wearing 12 other hats in the building, it's tough to keep running after, and chasing after those grant dollars.
Is that something that we could approach the town, like, the town offices about with the two towns and suggest that or I don't know if that's, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I would talk to the town administrators about that. That's easy enough.
I also think we want to make sure, so I write a lot of grants for a living because I run a nonprofit, so federal and state grants.
Well, there you go. Just start shipping
No.
next.
No way.
Yeah, they can't. Look at conflict of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. But I want to make sure we're going after not programs we then have to sustain here.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of great programs out there that I actually probably support bringing in here, but then we would have to think about sustaining them. So I was more, I don't know, like again, as part of the scope, things like funding some of our improvement projects and those things. So that's my only concern is depending on what you go after for grant dollars, there's a sustainability factor.
Right.
And I'm very conscious of that. I'm pretty much a stickler about it because it's the tail end we always have to take into consideration when we're applying for those grants. What's the cost of the taxpayer at the end of that grant? What's your commitment? Because once you get the grant, you're committed to those dollars in the future. And
Right.
that's not something you can predict if it's going to get approved.
All right, and Belmont just went through that with the, was it three or four personnel within the fire department.
Alright, thank you. So we're gonna talk about this more as we go through the budget process.
While we're on the subject of grants, do you happen to know if this was a question from a parent that they wanted to know if the robotics grants were submitted on time by the deadline?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up is the business administrator report, the retained fund balance.
So in your packet is my report regarding the retained fund balance. The total fund balance at year end was a little over $2,900,000. Of that, $68,743 is reserved for prepaids. $205,000 was reserved by the voters to go to expendable trust funds. $972,000 was reserved by the board for HVAC work, and $34,700 is reserved for open purchase orders that we already had on the books. The board has talked about retaining $700,000 as a fund balance, so that would be a total of $971,459 would be used to offset taxes when they set the tax rate.
Can you remind us what we retained last year, Debbie?
$700,000.
Did we talk about reducing that number?
We do. We talk about this every year.
Yeah. But I thought we were doing like a little bit of.
And we were.
Yep, we had.
It's up to you. One of the things that we had talked about was we had hoped if we had gotten the grants to be able to use some of that money to offset some of the costs that would have to be borne by the district in the event we received the grant. We still don't know if we're going to get the Belmont Elementary School grant or not, so.
So I know I was gone in July when I'm assuming you made the decision for the 972 going to HVAC. Is it too late for a discussion for some of the remaining 971 to also go towards HVAC?
Yeah, that action had to be taken by the end of June, so we could
Okay.
enter the contract.
Yep, okay. I don't, Alice, do you remember what we, had for a goal to get the retained fund balance down to?
So my understanding of this is that we have never utilized the retained fund.
Right.
We have used some of it when we purchased some food service equipment. It wasn't very much, but we have used some.
If I remember correctly, I think we, and this was years ago, so definitely correct me if somebody felt like I'm wrong. I think we had talked about 500,000, but I don't.
I think, yeah, that's, I just wanted to be able to confirm that. That was a number I had in my head as well. You know, being able to slowly bring it down so it wasn't a big shock to the tax rate.
So if I may, you would still be returning $971,000. So that's gonna be a big shock next year anyway, because you're not gonna have the 971 next year to return. You could return more if you drop the retained fund balance to 500,000, then you're returning 1.1 million, which is gonna be a bigger shock. So the retained fund balance is a way potentially for the board to gradually do impacts going forward when you don't have such large fund balances.
I agree with Debbie, you increase that number that goes back to offset taxes, it shows as a loss of revenue. When you put together your estimated tax rate impact.
If we retained more, would we be able to use that for HVAC in the future?
The board can retain more, and if the board wishes, let's say something comes up and you need to use it, you have a public hearing. So you do have the right to use that money from the retained fund balance after a public hearing.
Board's also discussed about sort of keeping things level and consistent, and this would be 2 years where you're right at the same amount for retained fund balance as well as what you're sending back to offset taxes. So you avoid that roller coaster ride when it comes to offsetting taxes and showing potential loss of revenue.
So we're gonna have less revenue as it is, just by they going around. Right. So by reducing what we return, that's going to make the revenue even that much worse.
Make sure we take into consideration, I know there were two things over the past few weeks, the contract with milk that was gonna cause issues with food services here. And then the auditors, that expense was gonna go up. Can we cover any of that additional cost?
So the retained fund balance could certainly cover that for the food service portion, because if the food service program goes into a deficit, the board is responsible for covering any deficit that they have. So that would be a possibility. As far as the auditor, the retained fund balance this year would not cover any auditing cost because we have the auditor through the 26 audit. So that's the 26-27 budget. It's the 27-28 budget that we're gonna have to really be impacted by increased audit fees.
And also just want to reiterate that we always, if there are unanticipated expenses, we look at the operating budget first, and then we go to our trust funds, and then we would go to a retained fund balance if necessary. So this just gives us another option, in my opinion, sort of as the last option, particularly for those unanticipated expenditures that might happen throughout the school year.
So what does our HVAC funds look like approximately at the moment?
Just what the board has already reserved, which is that $900,000+.
Right, but that's gonna be spent, right? Yeah, so, okay, so and we don't have any capital reserves for it.
No.
Right.
Geez, I would almost say let's retain more and use it towards HVAC.
I guess, for me, that's not what this money is for. So for me, for the retained fund balance, I support the 700,000 because I want us to remain stable. And because we're returning 971,000, which is about the same amount as last year, and it wouldn't be a reduction in revenue. So that's where and I understand where you're coming from, Mark. This is really supposed to be outside of the operating, like Michael said, you go first to the operating budget and then.
Yeah, so I guess along those lines, I get what you're saying as well, but we wouldn't necessarily use this for an HVAC project because we would be using unexpended funds first. We'd just go into that whole list.
I'm not saying if something didn't catastrophically break, we wouldn't use this or want to use
Yeah, if we had one of the major rooftop units go down, it's $295,000. You may not have a choice but to go to the retained fund balance.
I like your wording, Michelle, stable, keeping things stable.
this. Well, I'll make a motion to retain 700,000 on balance.
Second.
Does everybody think? Thoughts and feedback?
I think if we can offer stability at this point, we probably should.
No, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm looking at that. At that 971, it's already raised. It's already in the coffers. We know that we're gonna have to be spending whatever that number is, Jeff, 10, 11, 12, well, $12 million minus a 900,000.
Yeah, but if we were gonna do that, we were supposed to do that before June 30th.
Right.
Exactly it.
Yeah, so I mean,
Alright,
we can't.
Yeah, and that 971,000, when you did your annual meeting, you reported you were returning $800,000 anyway.
Yeah, I'd also be concerned about the transparency piece where, you know, yes, you're right, Mark, those monies have already been raised and appropriated. However, we didn't give any indication when we were putting our budget together that
Right.
those monies would be going toward this.
No, I know, I understand that. But I don't know how, I don't think people would be, or taxpayers would be upset if we knew that this cost was coming. And use that money as long as it was explained and explained well.
I think we missed that chance. We
Yeah.
can do that this coming budget cycle.
Yep, yeah.
To say, hey, we have extra money, unexpended funds this time next year.
Okay.
We may have to-
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it as we're gonna spend the money no matter what. Whether it's now, whether it's a year or, two years from now. And we're gonna be going back and asking for that same amount of money plus.
But by retaining the 700,000 this year, you can always go back next year and say, we have the retained fund balance.
Right.
We're gonna use that next year and build that right into the budget.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please hold by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. We'll retain 700,000.
So I have two forms. One is the MS-25, Municipal Services, that's Department of Revenue. And the other one is the DOE 25. These are both reports of the expenditures, the financial condition of the board, the Shaker Regional School District. I'll be sending these around for signatures so I can get these uploaded to the appropriate departments tomorrow. We'll do September 1st. Just for you, Sean. There's a spot just for you with board chair.
Okay, fine. All right, student handbooks. So this is the second reading for the handbooks, all 4 schools. I guess before we get started, one basic question I have. in summary is, did anything change for any of the handbooks? Any of the 4 handbooks since we last met?
Formatting, as well as there was a question about being more specific on the requirement in order to attend the 8th grade promotion celebration, and Mr. Pope did make some changes to that, clarifying that all students need to achieve a 2 on all standards for 8th grade to attend the ceremony. I don't believe there were any other significant changes to the high school or the elementary school for the athletic handbook.
We'll do athletics separately.
So just for just for clarification on the, and this would be across all of them, on the cell phone, is that possession or use or both?
Be in violation of,
Yes.
I would say it would be both. So if they're in
Possession or violation.
possession, it would be in violation.
One
Well,
second, and let me
Secrecy
actually refer
Can-
to.
can-
Right, I mean, because, I mean, it's almost like a security blanket for, you know, for some kids.
right, but they're turned off and they are capable of keeping them on their possession.
Okay, that's just what I was
To
wondering.
your question, it would be use.
Right, so then the violation would come in on the use, not necessarily the
Yeah, so if
the
I'm in
possession.
class-
I'm wrong.
I don't
I'm sure.
think you can have them out.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Unless the possession is like, it's in my hand here, but I'm not using it, that's
Right.
still
That's
use,
not okay.
because it's out,
Got it, yep, okay,
It would be put away and shut down.
yes.
yep, okay.
But if I'm walking around with it shut, we're assuming it's shut, but it's in my pocket, but I'm walking around the school all day with not, that's allowed.
Yeah, that's where I was curious.
Yeah.
How that was gonna go.
I will note, the only distinction that they make for that is you're not supposed to see these. And so if you see us, technically, I don't know why any student would be walking around with it in a pocket, but they're not supposed to be visible. And I think that that's probably a better word for us, is no personal electronic devices are supposed to be visible.
Same thing with earbuds.
Correct.
And then anything written into 504 and IDP, then that would be allowed.
I have a question, does the scope for the teachers too?
No, it's only applicable, the law is only applicable to students.
Other questions? So Mr. Probate, Michael, explain that clearly as well? Okay. So, I'm inclined to do the student handbooks all together. Everybody's.
Good.
It's all right.
Make a motion to approve the student handbooks, ES, ESBNS, and UHS.
Second?
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. And student athletic handbooks, same thing, nothing changed, right?
I make a motion to approve the student athletic and co-curricular handbooks.
Second.
Discussion. All right, all those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we find something to talk about? Some internal policies. Internal prices.
Tonight was gonna be a fairly short meeting.
I do have one other, so the same parent that asked about the robotics grant, do we know if all of the advisors and coaches are put in place for robotics for all of the participating schools?
No, we do not have advisors for the elementary schools at this point. as well as the high school coach.
Are those advertised? Those are advertised, right?
The elementary school is advertising through staff and then out through parents.
You saw the robotics director.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the head coach, did she vacate that position?
High school?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? They have a volunteer list. This one,
I
right?
just don't know that.
Oh, I did actually. All right, on the horizon.
You want me to reach out to the Belmont town officials for the September 9th meeting?
When we trying to do a joint meeting again?
Last year we did a joint meeting. Here in Canterbury.
They're doing Belmont. I mean, that would be September. Or November.
I think September 9th would be too early.
And we know what the agenda would basically be for, right? It's almost all budget related, I assume. So I would want to do it not too early, but not like we've already figured out what we're
I was gonna say, I think November is a little late for it, because to be fair, do this year in Belmont, as we did last year.
I'm going to shoot for the 23rd.
doing. Yeah.
Try to coordinate a joint meeting.
Okay, but do we have any information to give them about budget?
No?
Will we have, yeah.
So we did talk with the Belmont. We had that combined Belmont meeting last week.
I know what
Well, what's that?
We know what they're up against, and
Yeah,
they know what we're up against.
yeah. So we kind of touched on some of those topics already. How-
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we had it was an hour and a half conversation, which I thought was great. It was productive and learned a lot. I believe that both sides learned about what the challenges were as well as the successes. So I'm not sure if the Belmont town officials would think there would be a need to meet.
Was that with the budget committee, or was that with the town officials?
It was both.
Both. In fact, on the agenda, it said school budget committee or something too, and we kind of made it clear that it's just, part of the board and Michael and Debbie. We don't have a budget committee, we all work together. But they know that we haven't even started. I mean, I think it's worth seeing if the combined group would like to meet on the 23rd. I don't know. Agenda-wise,
Or you could have Belmont, because it's every work. We should have something done when they show up, or have information. Because I feel the 23rd, are we gonna have much information by the 23rd?
The first look at the budget for the board is on the 14th, October 14th.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it's kind of unfair, but maybe October 28th, have them come to Canterbury and see if they're willing to do that, because then they'll have information. Because well, 6 of us went to that meeting, and, I mean, they told us basically, they thought, well, we had nothing else to give them other than what we had from last year. So they, actually giving them something what we're looking at might be a little better. It's just what I think. I hate to just show up, oh, this is what we're thinking of, but we haven't seen it yet. So I mean, that's just, I know if I went to a meeting, I want to make sure it's meaningful, and I'm not just going to say hi. I want
Just
to,
to have a meeting without a meeting.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want it to be meaningful, so. That's me personally, I mean.
I think the 28th makes sense if we're, that makes sense timing-wise with the budget and all that. And I think it's easy to explain that our October meetings are in Canterbury every year. We can't September, it's not like we're making, Belmont travel to Canada every year.
And they issued it to come now, the invitation. It's also, so if we look at the 28th, that's also, so we have 3 budget meetings in
I'd like to be better
October.
prepared when they, because Ruth usually comes with some pretty good questions. I'd rather be prepared than not.
We don't have the budget scheduled yet.
And yeah, we're waiting for it to come back from Jim.
But even October 14th, we're not guaranteed to have the health insurance rates, we're not guaranteed to have the rates, how much we're
By
going to
the
get from the
28th,
state.
usually have a good idea, and you can have a good guess.
By the 28th of October, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, 20.
And also, you would have had the week prior, you were meeting with the administrators to review the budget. So you've already seen the budget on the 14th, then your review with the administrators on the 21st, and then the 28th, you would have plenty of information at that point to have a conversation with town officials if necessary. So I could throw out the 28th to go to towns, joint meetings.
And we're expecting a lot more letters of interest for the advisory budget committee.
Good.
Why do you say that? Have you gotten questions already?
There's quite a few questions last Thursday, and then that was one of the things that they mentioned, that they're changing the Belmont budget committee meetings to Thursdays
Oh,
to
yeah.
free up Tuesdays. So a few people asked me after for my email address so they could send letters.
Would it be appropriate to get a budget book in the, or proposed budget book in the hands of the select board? No. Okay. I was gonna say, just so they can have an idea to look at it before they come to that, meeting. Again, I just don't know the appropriateness because everything changes.
I mean, the meetings are open, they can come
Right.
to the meetings, but the first meeting in October is a very brief overview.
Right.
And then the next meeting is a meeting with the principals, where the principals explain a little more. That would be an interesting one for them to come to hear. But
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else on the horizon? So budget development on September 9th.
maybe have a calendar by then.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just waiting for the attorney.
Seems like he's kind of busy.
He is a little busy.
Yeah.
I see where we're at.
All right, we will move on to the volunteer list.
Make a motion to accept the volunteer list with the noted exceptions.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Volunteer list accepted. Internal policy.
So these are second readings, and Michael, I think you had a suggested edit.
Yes, so on policy AB, this was brought to my attention, I think we can do a strike through on line 26. Policy AB, where it states, and complete board policy manual, NHSBA policy management console. That's not applicable at this point. I'm not really sure what that wording even entails, so that it could read to inquire of the school or school personnel and promptly receive accurate, truthful, and complete disclosure regarding any and all matters. So strike through from the word complete to disclosure, 26 and 27.
Leave in the word disclosure.
You wouldn't need the
Okay,
word
thank
disclosure
you.
in there, yes.
And complete.
And complete.
Yep, so we could strike through board policy manual and HSBA policy management console.
I'll make a motion to accept policy AB with the noted change in lines 26 and 27. I guess that's it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? AB passes.
And next up is just this unauthorized communication devices, again, second reading.
Nothing changed.
I'll make a motion to accept JICI, unauthorized communication devices.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we have nominations. Appendix B. Two Appendix B nominations. Paul.
Make a motion to accept the Appendix B nominations as presented.
Second.
Discussion of a public nature. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And we had a English teacher do a, well, unless there are any non-public questions.
I'll make a motion to accept the Belmont High School English teacher position.
Second.
For the 25-26 school year.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public communication and correspondence. All right. We did have minutes also. Non-public minutes. Do we have anything to discuss? No. All right. Do those two unless there's anything we should be discussing.
Make a motion to accept the August 12th non-public meeting minutes.
Second.
Edits, changes?
I will correct Michelle's spelling on line 24. Yeah. I'm used to Michelle Bachman.
All right. All those in favor of the motion with that one edit?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
One abstention? That's passed. Anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call?